Hey everybody, my name is Darby Butts, and I'm going to summarize Chapter 4 of About Behaviorism by B.F. Skinner. This chapter is called Operant Behavior. This chapter talked a lot about reinforcers and reinforcement. What is a reinforcer? A reinforcer is something, such as a consequence, that makes a behavior more likely to occur. There are two types of reinforcers: positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. A positive reinforcer is when a stimulus is introduced that makes a behavior more likely to reoccur. An example would be how RBTs use edibles as positive reinforcement for wanted behavior. I myself, with one of my clients, use a quarter of a Skittle. My client receives a quarter of a Skittle for every 3 minutes he keeps his hands to himself. I hand the Skittle to him and say, "Nice, calm hands." And when I do that, the Skittle is reinforcing the behavior of him keeping his hands to himself and not showing any aggressive behavior. A negative reinforcer is a behavior strengthened by stopping or removing an aversive stimulus. For example, if a child is given something he doesn't want and he hands the clinician the no peck, and then the item is taken away, that is reinforcing the behavior of him using his pecs to tell the clinician what he wants. Operant conditioning is when the result of a behavior is reinforcing. For example, we all go to work and we work hard, and at the end of the week or the end of the 2 weeks, we receive a paycheck. That paycheck is reinforcing our behavior to work. Here is some more information on reinforcers. Knowing how much a person wants a reinforcer will determine how effective the reinforcer will be, as well as how well the person will engage in the asked behaviors. A reinforcer is not only effective when reducing a need, but reinforcers can satisfy a want, a desire, or a longing for an item or an activity. An example would be kids don't need chocolate to survive, but M&Ms sure do make a fantastic reinforcer. A reinforcer is supposed to motivate and provide incentives for the person to display the behaviors asked of them. Examples of reinforcers used during ABA therapy could be verbal praise, tickles, a favorite toy, or an edible. If you know how a person responds to an adverse stimulation, one can better identify how they will respond to a positive reinforcement. Operant behavior. Operant conditions which shape and maintain a behavior are not present in the setting in which the response happens. The difference between an operant condition and a reflex is that an operant condition just appears. A reflex has a cause. There was no cause or trigger to an operant behavior. P.F. Skinner says behavior is said to put into play when a person wills to act. Operant behavior is not uncaused. The cause is just more difficult to identify. For example, pepper is the cause for a person to sneeze, but it's hard to identify that is the original cause of the sneeze. Or a bug is the reason somebody is itchy, but it's hard to identify which bug is making them itchy. B.F. Skinner also talked a lot about purpose, will, and goals. He defined operant behavior as the field of purpose and intention. People act so that something will happen, and the order is temporary. B.F. Skinner said that purpose used to be a commonly used verb, same as the context as propose. For example, if someone said, "I propose we go to the mall," it was the same context that purpose was used for. In an experiment, organisms' purposive behavior was to move towards the area which the reinforcement was given. Many misunderstandings have occurred during early representation of goals. Though goals people thought goals had to be spatial, time-related. So they thought it had to be like, his goal is to reach the finish line first, or he needs to play the longest. Not goals such as he needs to count to 10 or he needs to say his ABCs. B.F. Skinner talked a lot about schedules of reinforcement. Reinforcement schedules can be intermittent or a schedule based off a ratio. A variable ratio schedule is reinforcement is given every set number of responses. This means if you are doing a 3-to-1 ratio that every 3 responses a client gives you, they get 1 reinforcer. So they answer 3 questions and they get 1 skittle. Another example would be a token board. This is a board setup that has 3, 4, or 5 tokens, and the clients learn that once they get their set amount of tokens, they have earned their reinforcer. So they see that there's a schedule to the reinforcers and that they will earn them if they complete the behaviors asked of them. According to Skinner, there are feelings associated with schedules of reinforcement. When a behavior is reinforced, a person becomes more willing to do that behavior again, and confidence is earned. Frequent reinforcement builds faith. It allows the person to feel as though they are talented and able to master something important. Extinction is when reinforcement is faded, the behavior goes away and rarely, if ever, appears again. After extinction, a person may feel a lack of interest, disappointment, discouragement, or loss of power. Frustration occurs when a person is not reinforced enough or has failed reinforcement. This is why it is important to be sure to reinforce your clients where it is necessary and where it is appropriate. A person may feel a lack of an appropriate time for the behavior or not know when they were supposed to engage in a behavior. Lastly, I'm going to talk about punishment. Aversive stimuli offers reinforcement when they were removed, so it's reinforcing when these negative things are removed. The difference between punishment and negative reinforcement is that punishment is designed to remove a behavior from a person's routine, whereas negative reinforcement builds behaviors. Thanks for listening for my summary of Chapter 4 from About Behavioralism by B.F. Skinner. As I close, I'm going to leave you with this. Skinner talks a lot about both positive and negative reinforcement. What are some examples of ways that you have used both positive and negative reinforcement in your career?